Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to do this intertwining herringbone macrame bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So this is the effect you get with this technique. And I also quite like the way it looks from the side. And then obviously you can choose different colours and different beads and different colours of beads as well. And you can even use just one colour if that's what you prefer. So that's what they look like. So if you want to learn how to make that, then keep watching. And these are the things that you're going to need. You'll need whatever cord that you decide to work with. In this case I'm using some 1mm satin cord. It's in 2 different colours. And then you always need your beads. And these don't have to be specific. I'm using some 8mm rounds, just some crackled glass beads, but they can be even a different shape, maybe some rondelles or an easily different size as well, smaller, larger. So that completely depends on the look that you want. And then you need a scissor to cut your cord. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is cut off your holding cord, which is the cord that's going to run throughout your whole bracelet and basically hold your beads. Now, say if you're using 2 different colours like me, you want to decide which colour you want that to be. What I often help decide is, say like this, I'm using clear beads, which means that whatever cord you put through a coloured cord, you'll likely be able to see the colour coming through the bead. So that's just worth thinking about, that it's going to show up a little bit through the beads. So in this case I think I'm going to go with this one. It's just a little tad lighter than that. But then also remember that the holding cord that runs through is going to end up being these ends at the locking part of your bracelet. So that's the coloured cord that runs all the way through the bracelet. So I'm going to get this cord that I'm going to use for that and cut off a length. There's no specific length for this, you just need it to be long enough to go around your wrist and then add maybe an extra 10-15 centimeters on each side. So just long enough. I usually just measure it because I'm working on a macrame board. So I usually just measure it on the short end, this is the large board, just so it's long enough to reach across, and then have a little bit spare on both ends. And then you just cut it off. So you have your holding cord, and then I'm going to attach this to the board, just like I would do with any other macrame piece, like so. And then just also attach it to the bottom. Like so. Now that's fastened nice and tight to the board that we'll be working on. So the next thing you want to do is cut off the rest of the cord that you need. Now what you're going to need is 4 separate lengths of cord. So if you have 2 different colours you're working with, you want to use 2 lengths of each colour. And then each length of cord needs to be about 2 to 2.5 meters long. And if you're a little bit in doubt, rather go for a little bit longer than the short, because you don't want to run out obviously before you finish. So cut your lengths off and then decide which colour that you want to start with. I'm going to start with my darker, my more purpley one. And then you want to fold it over in half, so you have about the middle up here, so you know where the middle is. And then feed one end underneath it, underneath your holding cord on the board. Because now the first thing we need to do is attach all our cords to the board so we can start working with it. So you have this lying underneath now, and this is roughly the middle of this long cord. So now you need to attach it by doing one square knot. So you put one over, take the other one, over that one, and then underneath both, and pull it up through the loop. And then you tighten it, like so. And you want to just complete that knot. So you do the same thing but the other way. So start with the other side, over, and then the other one over, and then under both, and up through the loop, like so. And just push that up and out of the way. You want to attach your next one. And the way I'm attaching these, if you want to get the same result that I showed you in the beginning, is if you're working with the two colours, you want to start off with attaching both colours next to each other. So I'm going to take the same colour now and attach that. So fold it over, find the middle, feed it under, and then attach it with your square knot. Like so, and complete it. So that's both my cards of this same colour attached. So the same colour to begin with, and then we'll attach the other ones in the other colour. Just do the exact same thing. Fold it in half to find about the middle, and then feed one end underneath your holding cord that's on your board. And just do the same thing. So with your square knot. So you just attach all your cords like this, so we can get them ready to start working with them. So we've now attached all the cords, all 4 cords, the 2 colours separately, the first 2 cords on the top and the second 2 on the bottom, and pushed these knots all the way to the top of our work. So now we need to just do a little section before we start the actual main part of the bracelet. To show you what I mean, on this one we're just going to do this little section before we start these, to basically get our cords into position to start the actual technique. So what we're going to do is, you have all your cords attached with just one square knot each. So you're going to go to the top cords and bring them down over the others, like so. So just kind of pretend like the others aren't there. Just leave them out to the side. So you bring these over, and then all you do is do another square knot with these. Make sure you start the same way that you started with the other times. So do your regular square knot, and tighten that. So you're basically almost in a way caging in your other knots with this one. And finish off that square knot. You want to do a full square knot with each one, like so. And then kind of put them out to the side underneath the others, and then you want to basically just do the same thing. You want to go back to the top with the very top cords that are now on the top, bring them down over the others, still leave the others to the side out of the way, and just do the same thing. Make a square knot with these. Like so. And as you can see, the lengths of your cord are lying like around the other knots, which is going to give you that nice effect. And then we continue back to the top again, bring them down. Now moving on to the next colour. square knot again. Finish off that square knot. Put them to the side, out of the way. Back to the top one, and these are the last set that we haven't done yet. Another square knot. Tighten that. And as you can see, the cords are lying quite nicely and forming a really nice shape and effect. Like so. So that's basically the beginning part of the bracelet, and we've now got all the cords into position where we need to start making the main part. So now we've finished off that first little section, and before we start making the main part, we just need to add in our beads. To do that, I'm just going to loosen the bottom of my holding cord, and then I'm going to just start putting all my beads on this. Now, like I said, you can use different sizes and even shapes as well of beads. It's nothing specific. In this case I'm just using some 8mm. And then you just put them on, however many you need. Now you don't even have to know how many you need, you can just put a bunch on because you don't have to use them all. But you can also easily add on more, because that's the nice thing about using the macrame board as well. It detaches and attaches so easily. So you just put on whatever you think you might need. And then we can start making the actual bracelet. So I've attached all the beads that I think I'm going to need, and then I'm just going to push them all to the bottom so we have this area to work with space wise. So now we're going to actually start making the main part of the bracelet. For this, first off, I'm actually just going to push up one bead because we need this to help kind of measure how much we need to make. So what you need to do is get your top two cords on each side. Just work with one side at a time, and again lay them over the others, so kind of like you were doing the first section, but just we're going to be using both now instead. And then what we need to do now is start making this first loop around, basically. To do that, like I said, you start on one side, you do one side at a time. It doesn't matter which one you do first, because you'll be doing the exact same thing. And we need to basically do half hitches, which is a macrame knot. And the first one, if you can kind of tell, the bottom one of the two top is going to be your holding cord. So you want to keep hold of that with one hand, and the other one is going to be your working cord. And I always like to start by going over, like so, and then pull it back around that cord and then through the loop, so that when you have it like this, it looks like a 6. But remember to pull it through that loop that you created, because that's what's going to actually make the knot. Like so, and then you just pull that tight all the way up, and the first one or two is just going to kind of go under this first work that you did, but that's fine, that's what you want it to do. So that's basically the first half of one knot. So we need to finish off that knot, where I then go under, around and pull through the loop. So it's basically the same thing, you just go over first and around, and then you go under and around. Well, again, you're getting your 6, but it's just going the other way around, and then pull that up tight. So that's one full knot basically. So you just keep doing the same thing, go over, pull through, because we're now starting a new knot, tighten that, and then go under, around and pull through. And I always like to go over first when I start a new knot. So that's 2 full knots. So over, around and pull through, and tighten, and under, around and pull through, and tighten. So there's now starting to build up. So we basically need to do as many as we need for it to reach down below the bead. So we're just going to continue. Still the same holding cord throughout this whole section. So over, around, and pull through. And then tighten. And under, around, and pull through. And tighten. Like so. And then what you'll be able to see is you can actually count your knots. Because you can, the first time you do this, you'll need to measure how much you need. But then when you've done it, you can count them. So you then know exactly how many you need to do on the other side. So now we've got 4, because you can kind of see one full knot is like one loop at the top. So you can just count the loops, and then you know how many knots that you've done. So I've done 4. I'm going to need to do a few more. Over first, and then under. And as you can see, this row of knots is growing for each one you make, becoming longer and longer. And now we're kind of getting there. Probably do just a couple more. She also wanted to have a nice shape, so curve around nicely, a bit of a rounded shape. Not just like straight and tight, you want it to just curve a bit. So then the way I would just measure it is simply just by, when I think I've reached roughly where I might need, I just keep hold of my holding cord and then basically just pull it so it sits right underneath the bead. So where the knotted section ends, you get pulled right into your holding cord and right underneath your bead. And then you see if you're happy with that curve and with the length of it. And to me this actually looks pretty good, size wise. So I'm just going to count my knots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8, so I know I need to do 8 knots on the other side as well. So we'll go over to that side, and then we'll get the top 2 cords, just like we did on here, that we already got out, and bring them over the others. And then we basically need to do the exact same thing, but you just need to switch hands. So now, again, the inner one or the bottom one of the 2 is your holding cord. And then you take the other one, that's your working cord, put it over, around, and pull through. And tighten that all the way up. And then under, around, and pull through. Like so. So that's one full knot there. So you want to just keep doing this. And like I said, I know I need 8 knots on this side. So I'm just going to do this until I reach the length. So I've now finished off the knots on this side as well. And I have 8 knots on both sides, on each side. And remember, it might be different for you. You might need more or less knots. All depends on, like I said, your beads, your materials, your cord and stuff. So just do what suits the design you're making. So what we need to do now is connect these so they sit in place. The way we do that, as you can tell, you kind of got a cord coming out from the actual row, from the end of the row. That was your holding cord on both sides. You want to start with them. They're also the ones closest to your actual holding cord in the middle. So you want to just basically do a square knot, just like you've done before. And I usually just do the same side, start with the same side. You'll probably find the side that comes natural to you. But as long as you just keep with the same side, it doesn't matter which one you start with. So tighten the first half, and then do the other half of the square knot, so. And then you probably just need to hold the first one tight while you're tightening the other one, like so. So that's your first one. And then what you might want to just do is kind of just push it up a bit so you don't have that gap of your holding cord underneath your bead. So that's the first one, and then you need to do the same with the other cords that are still loose. So those are the cords that you use to make the knots on these sections. So you now want to bring them into it, bring them down over the two cords that you just used to make a square knot. And you just want to do the exact same thing, make a square knot with these. And again, start with the same side that you started with before. Like so. And then just tighten that. And the other side, so it's the other half of the knot. Like so. So that's your first little section done using this colour. And we now need to move on to do the next section. So the cords that you just used, you want to just put them to the side for now because you're finished with them. So now I need to move up and use these ones. So bring them around, and again do the same thing, do one side at a time, so just work with one side, these two first, or the other ones, it doesn't matter. But then you basically want to do the exact same thing. Now one thing to keep in mind is this first section, because this is the start of the bracelet, of the technique, this section is probably going to be just a little bit smaller than the rest of it, because now you're obviously going to add in another bead as well, so push up another one. So this section you're doing now is going to actually go around 2 beads, so it's just a little bit of a larger section than the first one did. That was just around 1 bead and a few knots. So that's why the first section and the last one as well are going to be just probably a little bit smaller. You're going to need a few less knots. But that's why in this one you just have to measure it again and count, but then you can do the same throughout the rest of the bracelet. So you push up that 1 bead, and then again you just want to just split them up, so the bottom one of the 2 that you're working with now are going to be a holding cord. So you do the exact same thing as you were doing with the previous section. You bring the other one over, around, and pull through the loop, so you get your 6, and then tighten that. You want to make sure you tighten it all the way, or turn it around the back. You can see it actually goes all the way into your knots, so quite a bit underneath this knotted section. So just make sure you tighten it nicely, because that's where you want it to go in. That's how we're going to end up getting the effect that we want. And again, go under them to finish up this knot, and again still tightening it all the way in to where your knots are coming out from, where your cords are coming out from. So that's 1 knot. You need to do another one. So over, around and through, and tighten, and under, around and through, and tighten. So that's 2. And then you just continue making however many knots you need until again you've made enough so your section reaches right below this next bead that you've added in. So just keep making that until you've done that. So I've now made a bunch of knots in this section, and then I'm just going to check and see if it's the right amount, which yes, it basically looks like to me, because you want to have that just little curve. You don't want it to come out too far, but you don't want it to be too tight either, just a little curve on it. And then I know on this section I've done 12 knots, whereas the previous ones, like I told you, I did 8, and here I've done 12, so you will have to do a few more once after you've done your first section. So I know now I've done 12 because I counted them. You just lift it up and just count all the knots that you've done, and then same as before, you just move to the other side and now use these 2 cords and do the exact same thing, just with opposite hands. So start with the bottom one of them as your holding cord, and then over, around and through with your working cord and tighten that. Make sure you tighten it so it goes all the way in underneath, like so, and then under, around and through, and again tighten it so it goes all the way in, so it won't go any further basically. So that's one. And you know you need to do, well, I know I need to do 12, it might be different for you because I did 12 on this side. So I know for the rest of the bracelet, apart from the very last section which is going to be like that, but all the other sections I'm going to need to do 12 knots on each section I do. So just continue, do another, finish off this one, however many knots you need to do, and then we need to attach these as well. So I've finished off this section of knots as well. So I now have both sides ready, and I've done 12 knots on each side. So now we need to connect them again, just like we did before. So bring them together around your beads. So again, you need to use the cords. The first ones you need to use are the ones that were your holding cords. So they're coming out of the end of your row of knots basically. So take one side, start with the same side that you've done throughout, and you just want to make your square knot again. So one full square knot with these, tighten them, and the other half of the square knot starting from the other side, and then again just hold the first one tight while you're tightening the other one, like so, and then just going to push it up there, and then you've done them. So put those to the side, and then the other two that are still loose, bring them over and do the same thing. So a full square knot with these as well. Like so. You can now put these to the side, get them out of the way. Then, as you might be able to guess, we need to move back up and use these now. And you just do exactly the same thing. Bring them down over the other cords, and again just split them up so you make sure you grab the bottom one of them is your holding cord and the top one is your working cord, and just start making your knots again. So over, around and through, and tighten, and again make sure you tighten your knots all the way in to where your cords are coming out, under, around and through, like so, and then you just continue. And now, because I have started the main section of my bracelet, I know that on these sections I'm going to need 12 knots just like I did on the previous one. So all I need to do now is count my knots as I'm doing them. And then again, finished off that section, made my 12 knots, then move over to the other side, grab your top cords on here, split them up, so the bottom one is your holding cord, and then just do your 12 knots, or however many you need to do, on this side. Remember to start going over, and then under. And just do this all the way down again till you reach the bottom of your bead and made the amount of knots that you need. So again, I've finished off both sides with my knotted sections, and we now need to combine them together. So again, take your first cords that are closest to your holding cord in the middle and do your full square knot with them, like so. And the other half of it, and then just hold the first one tight while you tighten the other one, like so, and then just push it up again to give it that nice curve so it fits in and matches the other one. And then bring the other ones down above And the other one's out to the side, out of the way. And do your square knot again. This will incorporate all the loose cords. Like so. And put them all to the side. And you just continue like this. Now you go back up and grab your top ones. Do one side at a time, bring them down over, and then start with your knots again. So over, around and through, tighten, and under, around and through, and tighten. That's 1, 4, 1. So continue like this until you reach roughly the size that you want of your bracelet, and then I'll show you how we finish it off. So I've now finished off the length that I know I want my bracelet to be, and I've used up all the beads. So I've ended up using 9 beads in this one. Like I said, it can be different depending on the size and materials that you use. So we've now reached the bottom where we need to basically finish it off. So now we need to finish it off in a way that's going to look like the other end. So like I said in the beginning, this very last bit we're going to do now is going to be the smaller one, just like the one we started out with. So basically from that, you know, in my case I did 8 knots on my sections with that. So I know that's just what I need to do for this bottom one as well, to make them the same and look very similar. And make the whole piece quite symmetrical. So as you can see, we're in the position where if we were to continue making the bracelet, we would go on here up to these 2 sections and do our knots on each side and then push up a bead. But instead of that, we just leave out the bead and go back to these sections again, just like we would do if we were just continued, and then continue doing the knots the same way. So over, around and through, and tighten, and under, around and through, and tighten. And then, like I said, because this is the last one, so it's going to be the smaller one, I know because in the beginning I did 8, so I'm going to do 8 knots on here. So we're basically just finishing it off in the same way as we've done throughout. We're just leaving out the bead. Just continue until you've made the right amount of knots. I'm just going to count mine so I know where I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need another 2. And the last one, like so. So that's one side done. Move to the other side and do the exact same thing, just with opposite hands. So again, your holding cord is the bottom one, and you just start with your knots. So I'm also going to make 8 on this side. So I've done my 8 knots on both sides, and now we need to obviously connect these just like we've done through the whole piece. The only difference is we won't add a bead here in between, so we're just going to connect it right underneath the other knot. So that's basically going to make it look like the very beginning of the bracelet. So just do your square knot again, start with the same side that you've done throughout, and tighten, and the other side to finish up this square knot, and then just hold the first one tight again while you tighten the other one, like so. And then you just push this up so it sits right underneath the other knots. And then take the other loose ones above and do a square knot with these as well. And the other half, like so. So that's basically this main section of your bracelet finished off. And now we just need to make this end, that little piece we did in the beginning, make this on this end as well, so it looks the same. So all we did with that was go back to your top cords and just take the very top two, one from each side, not the pairs like you've been working with, but just the top one from each side, and bring them down above all the others, and then make your square knot. Like so, on the other half, and just tighten it so this knot sits right underneath the other ones. Like that. The top ones again, one from each side, bring them down above all the others, and make your square knot. Like so. And then the other ones, incorporate them as well. So move to the other colour. Make sure you put the other ones out to the side, so you can easily bring the top ones down in a bow. Make your square knot with this. Tighten with the other half of it, like so, and the top ones again. There. And then what I want to do is, because at the top we started out with the darker, the more purpley colour, I want to make sure I finish off with that as well. So that when you, if I show you on one of these, when you see the ends, they're the same on both sides. As you can see, it ends with a black and white and black and white. Same on here, black, white, black, white. Because when you then connect it and make your sliding clasp, you can make that the same colour and it'll match on both sides. So I'm just going to do this one more time with this top colour again, because that's the colour that I want on the bottom. So bring the top two, one from each side, down above, and just make my square knots again, like so. And the last ones, the top two, one from each side, bring them down above and make your square knot. Like so. So now if I take my bracelet off the board, because you've done basically the main part of your bracelet now, you can take it off and it's not going to come undone. So as you can see on this end, which is where we start it, we start off with the darker, and then so basically the purple, and then the more pinky and the purple, and then on this end as well we have the purple, pink, purple. So that's just what I prefer to do. And then that's basically your bracelet, the main part of your bracelet done. So all you need to do now is finish off these ends that you have here, coming out of the side. Those were all your working cords. All I normally do is I get some glue, make sure that it's some glue that dries clear. I normally like to use like E6000 or some Hypo cement for it, and just glue around where your cords are coming out on both sides. Let it dry and then cut them off nice and close. And then you get rid of your cords, your leftover working cords that way. Make sure you don't cut off this one and the other end, because those are that was your holding cord throughout the whole bracelet, and that's what you're going to use to then do the clasp if you want to make this kind of sliding clasp. But to make that clasp I have another video for that. and another option as well that you can do. So I'm going to link that in the description box. And otherwise, then this is how to do this technique to make this bracelet. So I really hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching.